friends, in case you didn't hear, Crysis is getting remastered. And in case you didn't hear, they dropped the trailer for Crysis Remastered and everybody was like, did you work on anything besides your lighting effects? To which Crytek responded saying, oopsies, sorry, you're right, we are not necessarily making the right game here. We're gonna delay Crysis Remastered. So that got me wondering, how could we remastered Crysis with what is currently out there? What mods, what lighting effects can we apply to the original Crysis in order to get it looking as good as we possibly can until Crytek realizes that they can't just serve up the same PlayStation 3 game with a few lighting changes in 2020 and expect that we're gonna think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, right?
Frick then.
Why are you so against Crytek?
Because I was promised nostalgia.
He was promised nostalgia and they delivered the exact same experience, which isn't that the whole point of nostalgia?
But I wanted Nostalgia Plus.
Nostalgia Plus, okay, gotcha. Well, we're gonna try to plus the nostalgia right now by getting Crysis running as good as we possibly can. We're gonna be using my test system right over here, which is a Ryzen 9 3950X, which doesn't matter since Crysis can't take advantage of more than 1 or 2 cores, and then an RTX 2080 Ti for all of the enhancements that we're gonna be doing here. So there's a couple different things that we have to go through first. Number one, Crysis doesn't natively run on Windows 10 64-bit automatically. In fact, it's one of the top posts on the community guides when you get Crysis the game. There are actually a few steps that you need to go through. So you actually have to modify the launch files of Crysis in order to get things running in the first place, and you have to take it from Crysis Warhead, which if you don't have, they link to in the Steam community page. And also, the original map doesn't load up when you start a new game. It actually just gives you a blank screen. So you have to go into the console and manually start the first map. So it's a giant mess of time. And also, in case you want to actually run the game at a regular resolution, you have to come on over to your Crysis files and modify your config file. You just edit it in a notepad and then you find your width and your height and you have to set that to a proper 1080p resolution, or you can even scale it up to 4K and then it should be fine. And then you just set this to read only so that the game doesn't overwrite any of your settings, but then you're good to go with actually starting Crysis. That's just the base game, starting it right up front. You have to actually modify things to get going. But in all of my discoveries, I actually found that there was one mod that's kind of regarded as the best one, and that is called Blackfire's mod Ultimate for Crysis 1. It not only modifies the lighting, which we saw Crytek tried to do for Crysis, it also does various different texture packs to actually change how the game looks overall. So you come to this website, you download the boy, you install this little boy once you're done, and then you're off to the races after you change the launch options on Crysis. So you come over here, set launch options, you have to go -mod space BFMU, Blackfire's mod Ultimate, and then you're ready to launch. But before I walk you through what the Blackfire mod actually looks like, let's go ahead and load up native Crysis so that we can remember what exactly it looks like. Oh yeah, that's nostalgia. NVIDIA. I am playing it on an NVIDIA card. Yeah, let's do it 2080 Ti, you and me. Oh my, oh wow. I haven't heard the in quite some time. Jeez, Intel. Okay, so this is just plain old 2007 Crysis, max settings, running on a 2080 Ti at 1080p. Oh, okay, all right, you load in like that, you got it. This doesn't look too bad. The foliage obviously looks pretty good. Honestly, for a 2007 game, it still holds up okay. It definitely looks like it came out in the PlayStation 3 era. Obviously, it was revolutionary for its time, and it doesn't necessarily compare to modern games that are coming out, but it has a lot of qualities that are still really good. Character models are atrocious, though. Look at that. Look at that guy. These textures are atrocious. And there's some lighting artifacts that are going on currently. Okay, that's regular Crysis. Let's go ahead and load up the mod. That's really what you're here for, trying to figure that out. So again, as I mentioned, you got to change the launch options to -mod BFMU. There we go, we're good to go. Play.
Burnt my Pop-Tarts.
I can smell that. Okay, Blackfire mod, let's go ahead and load you up. Well, automatically you can see that this is a completely different time of day. The other one was at dawn, and this one looks to be mid-noon. But the lighting actually coming through pretty decently. There's shadows on the foliage, which I didn't see before. The textures on the rocks definitely look like they're up-res slightly. This overall definitely looks a little bit better. We can go ahead and take a look at the character models for a second. Where's the person? There he is. Hello, friend. Character models are slightly up textured, as you can see. Oh, you can't even see me, don't shoot. I think this definitely looks better, but as I am a fan of most of the mods that I try to implement into games, one of the things that I really love using is Reshade, which allows you to do a whole host of various different activities with your games. If you come over to the Reshade model, which I'll leave a link in the video description for you to install Reshade, which is just basically changing a whole bunch of lighting effects and various other things on your game, you could change so much. And one of the things that I'm very much in favor of is there's somebody who's developed a ray traced global illumination mod for Reshade, which allows you to add ray traced global illumination to basically any game from DX9 all the way up. And in fact, we can actually do that here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on right now, which I think definitely looks better. Obviously, there's a lot more contrast. You can see that there's a lot more dynamic shadows when it comes to the foliage. In fact, there are so many shadows and so much lighting going on with all of the different blades of grass. It actually looks like the grass is vibrating, which is odd, which is probably one of the downsides to this completely, is that the grass looks really funky, but I think the lighting is better. Obviously, this is not necessarily to everybody's taste, whether or not you enjoy this darker contrast, but even if we go ahead and look at the rocks, what we find is that we do get sharper textures when we turn on it, because I have enabled a few sharpening mods that are on here, as well as you can completely customize the ray trace global illumination. As you come over here, you can set the amount of ray lengths, the ray amount, the ray step amount, the thickness of that, and how everything works with the ray tracing. So you can get this configured to your liking, and if you don't like ray trace global illumination, that you can turn that on and off, and you can just see the before and after with the rest of the effects, which still does increase the clarity on a lot of what you're playing. So this, as far as I can see, is probably the best that you're going to be able to get Crysis to look right now. There's not many mods that are out there. The Blackfire mod that we're using was last updated in 2013, and from what I can gather, there's not a ton of new modding that's happening in the Crysis scene, and also the ones that I have seen that have come out since Blackfire typically aren't as good or as stable as this one. So there's a lot of reasons to still consider using Blackfire. And what is happening? Who am I getting shot at by? The ray tracing's going crazy. So this is Crysis as remastered as it can be at this point in 2020. We obviously don't have a release date for the official Crysis Remastered at any time in the near future, so we just have to hold on to what we can get for right now. Obviously, the game runs okay on a 2080 Ti. The main limitation is its CPU bottlenecks. It's still that we definitely need an update for that. Let me see if I can go ahead and find the frame rate. Yeah, if you look in the top right hand corner of the screen, you'll see that we're running between 75 and 80 FPS on a 2080 Ti, but we're not using all of the resources. This is so CPU bottlenecked that it's not even funny at this point. So the remaster, even if they don't necessarily change a whole lot more to the textures or the lighting, what we'll find is that we'll get better performance because it should, at least theoretically, be optimized for multi-core, whereas this is still running on single core. You saw the Intel Core 2 Extreme logo at the beginning of the game, if that tells you anything about the CPU technology that this game was expected to run on. So that's Crysis as remastered as you can get it in 2020. Let me know what you think of all the mods. Let me know if you have a favorite Crysis mod that maybe I didn't potentially cover here and you have a way of making it look better than I covered. And I would be keen to see that and try it out. But Crysis Remastered, better than what Crytek showed off in their trailer? Let me know down below in the comments. And while you're down there, hit the like button, get subscribed to Brainist, stay up to date on all the things that we do on over here. And I'll see you in the next video, friends. I gotta kill the people on the boat. Goodbye.